Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Julie, and in today's video I'm going to be testing out the Elf 16-Hour Camouflage Concealer. The thing that piqued my interest about this concealer is that it's been compared a lot to the Tarte Shape Tape, which is my favorite concealer of all time and many other people's favorite concealer of all time. So if a $5 drugstore concealer can be even kind of comparable to the Tarte Shape Tape $27 concealer, I think it's worth a try. Initially, I was going to wear this concealer on this side of my face and this one on this side, but as you can see, the colors are quite different, so that didn't really work out. But with that said, I know the Tarte Shape Tape concealer very well. I use it all the time and have been for quite a while, so I feel that I know the formula enough to know how it will compare to this new one. So I'm going to be applying this concealer on camera and talking about how the application process goes. And then I'm also going to be doing a couple of check-ins towards the later parts of the day to see how it wears. So let's just jump right into it. Looking at this now worries me. I think it's probably too light of a shade. I'm way more dark than I used to be. I'm walking and running outside, so yeah. But we're just gonna go for it. This is just gonna be an ultra highlighted type day, and that's all right. So I did already apply my infallible 24-hour fresh wear by L'Oreal. Spoiler alert, it's not 24-hour wear, whatever. This apparently is 16 hours. So obviously they're going for a very Tarte Shape Tape feel with their packaging. This one's a little shorter and fatter. The formula already seems a little bit more watery and less thick than Tarte Shape Tape. Not when applied, that's pretty thick. I'm gonna start by priming my eyelids for eyeshadow. That's super bright compared to my face. I might need to go more light-handed than that. Let's see how it blends. This shade is light peach, by the way. I have pretty neutral skin, so I can wear peach. I can wear things that are golden and yellow. It's very matte, but it looks nice and smooth. It doesn't feel drying yet. I could see how it might start to get that way. And it definitely is pigmented because you can see how brightened my eyelids are. I'm also going to use it on my under eyes and kind of the darker spots in my eyes right there. And I'm just gonna dot along here for some brightening. And then I'm also going to just apply it right here on my forehead, here on my chin, and on my Cupid's bow. I'm gonna start by blending out this right here. Okay, so something that I'm noticing is that it dries down pretty quickly, so you have to work fast. It also has really good coverage. It looks slightly dry on my eyelids, but nothing too crazy. So obviously the place that I worry about concealer creasing is right into these little lines underneath my eyes, also onto my eyelid before I can set it down with any powder. I haven't set it down with powder. It's been on my skin for over a minute now, and it is not creasing into those lines, and it dried down pretty quickly, and I think that's why it's not creasing. So even though it dried down quickly, which could make it a little bit more difficult to work with, it also stopped it from creasing, and it's not creasing at all, so that's awesome. I don't think I've ever come across a concealer this creaseless since Tarte Shape Tape. Tarte Shape Tape also does this for me. Now another test for concealer coverage for me is covering up my sunspot right here. It's kind of an awkward place to put a brightening concealer, but we're just gonna test out the coverage anyway. I'm just gonna put some of it over there, put kind of a generous amount, and I'm just gonna blend it out really lightly with this, tapping it in. That definitely camouflaged my sunspot. Obviously it's not invisible, it's not completely gone, but it's much less noticeable, and I think it did a really good job. Even the Tarte Shape Tape doesn't cover it 100%. I don't usually work very hard to cover it 100%. It's fine, it's not a big deal. I think that this did close to as good of a job of covering it up as the Tarte Shape Tape. Now, unfortunately, I'm all out of my favorite setting powder. My favorite setting powder is the Coty Airspun Loose Face Powder, and I like to set that with a wet sponge and just really kind of bake my whole face, really. That is my favorite way to set everything. I'll link it down below, even though I'm not using it today. But today, instead, I'm gonna be using another good alternative for when I've run out, and that's the Rimmel Stay Matte Setting Powder. As you can see, this powder is also well loved at Hit Pan, and I'm gonna be using a Lorac brush. This is kind of a contouring brush, but I like to use it because it's so dense, and I just kind of pack it on and then really press it into those areas that concealer likes to crease into. This concealer so far is amazing as far as its creaselessness. Right now it's just as good as the Tarte Shape Tape in that department. Then taking a big fluffy brush, I'm just going to pat that powder all over the face. Now that I've got a layer of powder just setting everything down, I'm gonna take this smaller brush and just kind of gently swipe off all of the excess powder. All right, we are locked in. This is not going anywhere. If this is a good concealer like Tarte Shape Tape, what I just did should lock it in for as long as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my makeup, and I'll be right back. All right, and we are done with the rest of the face. So this is the completed look that I'm wearing today. If you want a tutorial on this look, let me know. It's pretty easy, only 3 eyeshadows, so let me know if you're interested. I will say right off the bat that I do think that this formula for the Elf Camo Concealer is drier than the Tarte Shape Tape, which already I think is prone to being a little bit more on the dry side, which is why it's so long lasting and all of that. But aside from that, it's really comparable. So I am going to be doing check-ins today, but before I get into those, I wanna kind of do a quick overview of my first impression of this concealer. Compared to the Tarte Shape Tape, it's very promising, and I can't believe that because Tarte Shape Tape is $27. This Elf Camo Concealer is only $5, like $5 flat. So the price point and for what I'm getting so far, I'm pretty blown away. So the first thing that I look for when I'm trying out a new concealer is I want something that isn't prone to creasing. I find that if I put on the concealer and it creases into the lines, it can make it difficult during the makeup application process. So I want it to be able to be smooth for long enough for me to set it down with powder, and then it won't crease throughout the rest of the day. And there have also been concealers that I put them on, I set them down, and eventually they wind up in those lines anyway. That's an automatic deal breaker for me when it comes to concealer. So far this one looks very promising. It didn't settle into the lines. It was just as creaseless as the Tarte Shape Tape. A little bit more quick drying, so a tiny bit harder to work with, but to me that's totally forgivable at this price point. The second thing I look for is good coverage. I'm looking for something to brighten up the darkness that I have in the inner corners, or if I have some eye bags going on, and occasionally if I have a blemish or if I want to try to cover up my sunspot on my cheek. The coverage on this also fantastic. I would say it's close to as full coverage as the Tarte Shape Tape. The Tarte Shape Tape? Tarte Shape Tape. So probably not quite as full coverage, like just a smidge less, but still phenomenal, really, really good. My dog's squeaking his toy in the background, and I don't have the heart to go take his toy from him, so that's what that noise is. Another important factor for concealer for me is how smooth it looks. I want to put on the concealer and I want to feel like it just smoothed out my skin, that it's not sinking into my pores in a way that makes them look more obvious. and that it just has an overall nice texture, and so far so good. Like I said, it's a tiny bit more dry than the Tarte Shape Tape, but besides that, I actually think it's nice and smooth, and it will probably wear nicely throughout the day because I have oily skin. And of course, last but not least, is wear time. If I have all of these things in a concealer and it looks really good when I first apply it, but it only lasts for like a couple hours, then that's another deal breaker for me. I want my makeup to look good and I want it to last. So that can only be told with time. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you a close-up of what this is looking like. I'm gonna go ahead and just move on with my day. I'm going to do some check-ins for this foundation. I feel like the bare minimum time that I absolutely require for makeup, if I'm ever going to even consider putting it on my face again, is 4 hours. And that's nothing. So it is currently 1:34 p.m. So I will check in with you between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. See you then. Okay guys, so it is 6:09 p.m. and I'm sorry the lighting isn't great in here, but it's kind of dark out, so this is as good as it's gonna get for right now. I just did a thorough check in the mirror just to see how everything is holding up, and so far everything looks great. I noticed even like around the sides of my forehead and the very top, it's getting a little bit oily, but where I have the concealer, it's holding back the oils a lot better. It looks a little bit dry under my eyes, just a little bit, not anything too crazy, just a little crepey if you look really, really close. But if you're not examining my face, I'm completely fine with the dryness level that this is at. So far, so good. It's been 4.5 hours about, so the bare minimum test is passed. So I'll check in again at the end of the night and we'll see how it held up for the full 9 hours or so. All right guys, so it is 9:40 and I just did another makeup check. I'll kind of do it for the camera also. So the foundation has, or not foundation, the concealer still has not settled into my lines. Underneath my eyes, my eyeshadow is still there, looks good. It worked great as a primer. I am noticing that I'm getting shiny, so it's starting to kind of come through. My oils are kind of coming through, but there's no separation, and it's not overly shiny. It just looks kind of dewy. It looks pleasant still. So now that it's been over 8 hours, I definitely am starting to get quite a bit more shiny, but not in a bad way. I think in another couple of hours though, this makeup will be totally expired. So I might do one last check-in when I get home. I'm actually at a friend's house right now. I'll probably be up for a couple more hours and then we'll see if this makeup is acceptable then. So see you soon. So it is 11:46 p.m. So it has been over 10 hours now. Not too bad at all. So if I look really close, I don't know if you can see, on my forehead, it's just now starting to not separate. It's still kind of all in one place, but it's starting to be pushed out by the oils in my skin. It's not separating though. You can see my nose is very shiny, but it's fully covered. Under my eyes, the makeup under my eyes is just barely starting to settle into the creases. It looks a little dry. I'm no longer just dewy looking, I am greasy looking, but that is totally normal for 10-hour makeup wear time. That is to be expected with anything that I use. So I will say that the Tarte Shape Tape, it doesn't, with time, end up settling into the lines under my eyes like this one has. I also think the wear time is a little bit longer with the Shape Tape, but everything else is very comparable. It's the best creaseless and full coverage and matte concealer at the drugstore, in my opinion. It is absolutely 1000% worth the buy, worth the purchase. Go get it. It's a fantastic concealer. I would highly, highly recommend it. I wouldn't say that this concealer is as good as Tarte Shape Tape, but I would say that it's the second best thing that I've found to the Tarte Shape Tape when I'm looking for a Full Coverage Matte Concealer. Hey guys, editing Julie here. So, forgot to mention, I would highly recommend this concealer for anyone who has oily skin, even normal skin, but if you have dry skin or even really dry under eyes or anything like that, you might not love this concealer, but it is only $5. So that's everything. I hope that if you were on the fence about purchasing this concealer and trying it for yourself, that this video helped you make a decision. Don't forget that I do have this concealer and everything else I'm wearing on my face linked down in the description box below. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I hope to see you guys in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Honey, I'm gonna whistle for Winston.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna bathe him.
Okay, thanks, honey. He's so cute.
Oh, boy.